there's like a pear-shaped craft with these strut-like legs, and there's an elderly man standing there, gray hair and beard, looks like a deep-sea diver suit without a helmet. And the man beckons him to come forward, and Billy says, I can only say I felt no fear. This man just was very kindly. So I went forward, and then he said some things to me, and the next thing we stood on this platform, little platform, and went up, and this pear-shaped craft, the door opened, we went in, and this began his 11 years of being tutored by this man.
People say that I'm one of the greats, I'm the one that you love to hate. Shake them up like a quake, all your feelings and turn and dispose them like haters I throw away. I'm forever blessed, got the spirit that's holy controlling me, I ain't gotta coordinate. I just sit back and buckle my bells and I'm ready to blaze in the stars of my destination. Melted, broadcast, open vision. Melted, broadcast, open vision. Melted, broadcast, open vision. Melted, broadcast, open vision.
What's going on, everyone? This is Tony Mars
and Mary Bly
with the Melted Broadcast. Today on the Melted Broadcast, we're diving headfirst into one of the most controversial and debated UFO stories of all time, the Billy Meier Contact case. My guest today is Michael Horn, researcher, author, filmmaker, former SETI team member, and the Authorized American Media Representative for the Billy Meier Contacts. For decades, Michael has investigated what he presents as extraordinary evidence surrounding Meier's alleged extraterrestrial encounters, including UFO photographs, predictions, and warnings reportedly dating back to the 1950s, and claims involving events that would unfold years or even decades later. Michael's work has taken him around the world, from university lectures and international presentations to documentaries exploring what he believes could be one of the most important contact cases in human history. Today, we're going into the evidence, the controversy, the predictions, and the questions that have kept the Billy Meier case alive for decades. Whether you are a believer, a skeptic, or somewhere in between, this is a conversation you're not going to want to miss. What's up, Michael?
Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good to meet you. Good to see you.
Yeah, you too, man. Like we were talking before, I really appreciate you coming on. We watched you last night on the Area 52 podcast, and man, you're quite knowledgeable on all these topics. And I do want to go ahead and jump in, not so much straight into the Billy Meier story, but I want to hear a little bit about you on how you got started, with all these topics and getting into ufology.
Sure. Well, actually, it started when I was quite young. I used to have dreams. This is going back into the 1940s. That's last century. And I would have dreams about, I'd say, squadrons or groups of lights moving across the dark sky, like in space somewhere. I had a dream about being underneath a rotating disc, and I knew that the thing rotated and it could go in any direction. And I had a dream. I'm saying these as dreams because I'm not claiming that at a young age I'm having, any kind of so-called context. This was just something that was alive for me. And I was, I grew up listening to radio shows and then TV. I was watching in the early days of TV and space shows. So that was, the kind of stuff that caught my attention early on. I only learned about a year to 2 years ago from the daughter of one of my mother's best friends. We were both children at the same time back in the 50s. And we're in an email exchange. And she said something about when I told her about being at the drive-in and seeing the flying saucer. That was a term. I said, what are you talking about? I have a good memory, but what are you talking about? She said, well, don't you remember we had been talking and you said you, your mother and sister and somebody else were in a convertible at a drive-in theater. And there was a flying saucer hovering above your heads. And I said, of all the things I don't remember is that. She said, telling you, you made a big deal about it at the time. So I was, I don't know, 8 to 10 years of age, whatever. Anyway, this whole thing has been part of my interest field for a long time. In about 1957, I was in high school, in a high school in Chicago. I remember exactly where I was standing when one of the students walked up to me. Some kid I kind of knew, I don't remember his name now, starts talking to me about his father being in the Air Force and that they had a flying saucer had crashed and they had taken it to Ohio to some Air Force base.
Ohio.
1957.
What's crazy is so Mary's talking to this guy on TikTok right now, and he's talking about he's over there in Ohio
Right.
by the Air Force base. That he lives right next to the Air Force base. So it's
Well,
I mean it's so crazy that the coincidence that you just bring that up right now.
I don't know where it's kind of like, and the coincidence that this guy walks up to me, tells me this before I'm aware of Roswell. I mean, it may have already been somewhat in the news, but what am I, 14 or something? And this guy's telling me about this. So then, I've always had the interest in the topic. In 1979, I walked into a bookstore in Los Angeles that was a kind of new age paranormal, metaphysical, UFO focused bookstore called the Bodhi Tree.
That's awesome.
And there was this big photo book facing me from across the room. I still have it here. And wow, what's that? And clear as day, these photos of quote unquote flying saucers, which were now becoming UFOs in the 70s, 80s. And I got the book, and that started my actual research and investigation, because in addition to the photographic and other evidence in the case, there were little clips, if you will, quotes really in print of conversational elements that this man, Billy Meier in Switzerland, was supposedly having with extraterrestrial people. And they were very interesting things. And then there was stuff in their analysis about sound recordings and also the analysis with photos and metal samples. So I really was just reading everything. Then it was about 7 years later, I was with my daughter in Sedona, Arizona. We walked into this health food store that's no longer there on 89A, and big empty place. One other guy was sitting at the far end. We ordered the required avocado and sprouts on whole wheat bread, and we're waiting while they're growing the wheat and the avocado. Was forever to make a sandwich. So we called this guy over, and we're talking, and here we are for our first trip to Sedona. And of course, different things come up and UFOs come up. And then Billy Meier's name comes up. And then I'm talking to him about having the photo book. And then he says, well, in the contact notes, they were called at the time, they're subsequently been referred to as contact reports. He says in the contact notes, when they're talking, I said, what's the contact note? He said, well, those pages that they were quoting from in the photo book. So he said, well, when you get back to LA, look me up. I'm up in Decker Canyon. I've got 1,800 pages of translations. You come, wow. I'll give it to you. I returned, I came, I went, he gave, and I went home with 1,800 pages and started my research. And strangely enough, this is a guy who he made a name for himself in so-called ufology. Unfortunately, he became a hoaxer. His name was he's still around, Ralph Amagran, and he goes by Alex Collier.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Why have I heard that name?
I know he's.
Well, I won't go into that whole thing unless you really want. But anyhow, the thing was that I was this is about 1987 or 88, somewhere in there in LA. I'm sitting at a Whole Life Expo on the stairs. I took a break from walking around, and he's walking through. He's got a suit on, and two new age babes, are accompanying him, one on either side. And I said, "Hey, hi, Ralph." Ralphie doesn't look at me. I said, "That's strange." So a little later on, one of the women walked by, and I said, "Excuse me, what's with Ralphie here?" She said, "Who's Ralphie?" I said, "You just came through with Ralph Amagran." She said, do you mean Alex Collier, Andromedan contactee? And I went,
Mm.
oh no. So he was the guy that gave me the first 1,800 pages of the transcripts. There's now thousands of pages. And he'd read all this stuff, actually, obviously, before I had. He fabricated a persona, changed his name, changed the material around, attribute stuff to himself and his imaginary contacts. And I don't know, people fell for that to a degree. So I just kept pursuing my interest in the case. And it was in 1988,
Yeah.
opened up a newspaper where I lived, and there was a new scientific discovery from Lawrence Livermore National Laboratories about A-bomb testing tied to ozone damage. And this prominent laboratory in California had this new finding, and I looked at it and I thought, well, how could I already know that? And instinctively, I put these 18 100-page blocks that were bound up, and printed out paper, and I'd stuck them all under the bed, and I reached under for the first one, and I start right there, and I get no farther than like the 7th contact, which is in this first 100 pages, I believe. And Billy's learning all this stuff about the ozone damage, far beyond what was already a new discovery in 88. In 75, 76, he already still information that they haven't discovered. This was the moment I went, this is about something even more important than the UFOs. And that is really where I've been since that time. I'm glad to discuss any of the evidence and all that stuff, but sure. He's got the best physical evidence, and it's still not the most important evidence.
So for those who don't know who Billy Meier is, can you tell us about him? The history, whenever he was little, all the way up until now.
Sure.
I heard that he was given these predictions by these beings that are supposed to happen, maybe have happened or are going to happen.
Oh boy. Yeah. I don't have the whole thing in front of me, but I'll just tell you, yes, we can go there. To date, we have found in the English language translations, not even for those who don't read German, we haven't gone into all of the, material, because a lot of it is still in German. Some of it that has been translated, we haven't gotten into over 250 specific error-free examples of verifiably previously unknown scientific, environmental, geopolitical, economic, and medical information, prophetically accurate, error-free, verifiably published by Billy for all official discoveries by NASA or anybody else. But to answer the first part, this is another universe of material. And he was 5 years old, he claims in his biography, when he first had his first contact. He had heard of like a man's voice talking to him in his head. He thought he was nuts. So he went off to the parish priest. And the parish priest is a very interesting man himself. He had already been contacted by this first Pleiaren extraterrestrial man. And for whatever reason, this priest was able to handle the whole thing. And he knew then that young Edward Albert Meier, that was his given name, was going to approach him and be concerned about hearing this man speak to him. And so the parish priest, Father Zimmerman, said, don't worry, I know this is very benevolent, and I will help him. And that began the interaction with the priest on that level. And that began then shortly thereafter. Young Meier hears this man speaking to him, and he wanders out. He's in Switzerland's a beautiful country, goes out into the forest, and there's a pear-shaped craft with these strut-like legs, and there's an elderly man standing there, gray hair and beard, looks like a deep-sea diver suit without a helmet. And the man beckons him to come forward. And Billy says, I can only say I felt no fear. This man just was very kindly. So I went forward, and then he said some things to me. And the next thing, we stood on this platform, little platform, and went up. And this pear-shaped craft, the door opened, we went in, and this began his 11 years of being tutored by this man. And I will say one more thing about something you said about being told predictions. It's true that throughout his life, he has been informed about events long before they'd happen. But something that slips by a lot of the people, even who've been investigating, and Billy makes it clear. Because people, it was said in the material, this is a prophet and the predictor and all this stuff. But what happened is that he has come forward in recent years. He just says it kind of casually. He says, I'm not a prophet. I'm a herald, Harald, a teacher. And the things that I talk about, the predictions, I've seen these things already. This is a genuine case that can be proven in 15 minutes of time travel. These people, they are fully human. None of this little weird gray. The grays are androids, they're not extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
But this is a case, the case, where human beings from another star system have been in contact with him for over 84 years. And they are time travelers. And from the earliest stage, he was going with them and learning things, and just remarkable exchanges. And we have so many of these conversations between him and the different extraterrestrials. In some cases where there is predictive information specifically, it's more them telling him for publication. But many of the things that he's being told, they've already taken him to see. So we are in times now, in the times that we are living in, we've seen many of these things already fulfill. They are unfortunately now unstoppably fulfilling because they were given as prophecies, in many cases, the distinction being, according to them, a prophecy is an event that will take place unless the people, meaning the people of Earth in this case, do things to alter the direction, the circumstances, the events, the thinking, the feeling, and the acting in their individual and collective lives. Otherwise, things turn to predictions. Predictions being things that are going to occur with certainty. Oh, I actually have something here to demonstrate this. With certainty, and they're going to be of two kinds of things. One, some kind of cosmic events that might be objects coming from space, or events on the Earth like earthquakes or eruptions or things, meaning the ones that are not man-made.
Yeah.
So I'd like to call it the law of the pendulum, and I don't know if you can say, maybe not. I knew I had this. I've never tried.
Oh yeah.
You can.
It's a thing. You swing back and forth. Okay. So it's the law of cause and effect. And I like to say it's the law of the pendulum. So that means that if we set something in motion, individually, collectively, let's start it from here so maybe it can be seen. And it's going to go somewhere. Sometimes things change. People see that there's an error underway and they change direction. If we don't change direction, it goes like a wrecking ball, not just a pendulum. And then we get the full force of it. Sometimes people, when they hear about things that are prophecies or even predictions, they try to change things when they can no longer be changed, and that makes big messes. There's a lot in here that we can discuss things hopefully even more
Yeah, for
often.
sure.
This is just to lay it in a little bit.
So these beings, you're saying that they were time travelers. Were they like coming back to stop a certain event and like giving them these predictions ahead of time to maybe try to stop it?
The predictions themselves, when something's presented as a prediction, it can't be changed, but
Okay.
they can warn us about things. For instance, in 1948, he is still being taught by this elderly man, Svath. And in 48, Svath says, in 2016, next century, there are going to be some extremely strong earthquakes that will take place in central Italy. They will be the precursors, they'll be the warnings about volcanic eruptions that are going to happen afterwards in the years to come. These are the warnings. And he said in this document, they number, when they're giving this out as prophecies and predictions, specifically, they number every sentence they speak, so that there's no, you can't backdate it when it's been distributed. Here's number 18, here's number 29. So he said, there's Mount Marsili, there's Mount Vesuvius, there's Stromboli, and there's Mount Etna and Campi Flegrei. Campi Flegrei, Mount Etna, active now. Big earthquakes. But before I jump to the present, I decided to find it. I always try to test the information.
Yeah.
So I went online. This has been published by the guy in 48. And I look up 2016, earthquakes, central Italy. And it says, I'll paraphrase, the strongest earthquakes in recorded history in central Italy took place in 2016. Okay, it's published in 48. You got 52 years there, and then you got 16 years. So 68 years before those earthquakes, they warned him. And they've warned him. And in these warnings, they say Campi Flegrei is a caldera. And this, when this goes, parts of Italy may go into the sea. There are thousands upon thousands of people living in the proximity of all of these.
Yeah.
And they should be
wild.
moving.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I
That's
I
just-
had a question. You call them, they're called Pleiadians?
They're called, yeah, I'll straighten out this whole, you've heard of Pleiadians, right?
Pleiadians, yeah. So they're different.
Okay, but here's the thing about it. Billy Meier is the first person to use that term.
Mm.
In 1975, when the third contact person would come into his life, a woman named Semyaze, she would come into his life, and that's when this photo op stuff would really start. He had some other earlier photos, but these would be the clear ones, real classics. And they met, I think the first time was January 28th, 1975. And it's at that time or in a contact meeting shortly thereafter that she says, yes, just, refer to us as the Pleiadians. And Billy knows quite a bit by this time. He says, wait, there are no Pleiadians. There's no life in the Pleiades. Why are you telling me to refer to you as Pleiadians? And she said, look, we obviously know there's no life in the Pleiades, but here's what's going to happen. Starting this year, you're going to start publishing all these photographs from these photo ops. You're going to publish the transcripts and conversations. And from this point on, for a long time, people are going to pop out of the woodwork claiming that they are contactees, that they're meeting with us, they're dating us, that we're having their babies and vice versa. And to save you, Billy, the trouble, and to save us the time. No, So we're giving you a false name because they're going to tell you that they're having all these experiences with who? Pleiadians. And you
Pleiadians.
already know there's no such thing. So don't worry about it. In the right time, which I think took place in about 1998, they said, you can now use the term Plejaren, because we are Plejaren, people from the Plejars, in the direction of, but 500 years, light years, pardon me, beyond the Pleiades that you see in your night sky.
Oh, wow.
And there's no shortage of people talking about Pleiadians. Each and every one that uses that term, and others who don't use it, are basically either deliberately or unknowingly, maybe, deceiving themselves and trying to deceive others.
So why do you think that they gave this information to Billy? Like, what would be the why him? Why is he the chosen one, so to speak?
Okay, you know, I have two answers. One, well, it's got to be somebody if there's really going to be contacts, because you know, somebody. And in this case, it is simply said, it's pretty interesting stuff. It is said their abilities scientifically are obviously, if this is true, their abilities are enormously beyond ours. And what they said is our science allows us to know things that are only beliefs in your world at your stage of development. And they also, a lot of your beliefs are completely wrong, but they believe this or that. So let us explain so people will know. We have the ability through very refined technology that we have to perceive what is called the, you know, at this time by people on Earth, the spirit or the spirit form, the human spirit. Yeah. We have technology that actually can detect that and all the rest, and we can get information about it through higher levels of people outside of your world that we are in touch with, who know more than we do in certain areas, so we learn from them. And the spirit or spirit form, that the term that they were using at the time, I'll tell you that's been changed, and I'll tell you in a minute, that we detected because we knew from ancient information available to us in our worlds that there would be a highly advanced spirit that would incarnate again on Earth, that there have been others in the past, a certain limited number, 6 in the past, this would be the final 7th, and that this would be a human being who, like 6 previous human beings, would be evolved enough. And they explain how evolution and so-called reincarnation, all this stuff works. He's got books about this, books about it. No beliefs. This is the science of it. Okay. They knew that this would be the final opportunity for the people of Earth to get an extremely ancient teaching, non-religious, belief-free, a study, so that if the people of Earth want to, they can study and test this and never have to believe anything. Now, the term spirit, spiritual, they said, look, that really isn't the correct term. The correct term is creation energy, because even living in our respective universe, this isn't the only universe. Yours isn't the only inhabited planet. It is the only inhabited planet in your solar system. And we are living obviously in another location in this universe, but all of this is within something even greater, that is the creation, the source of all things, mystery, truly to everybody.
Yep.
Out of nothing, suddenly there is quite a bit of stuff. So that's a basic thing. They took on, this man Svath would be his first teacher, who would be able to, knowing that this young boy of 5 had the potential to learn, to be shown, to rapidly accelerate his consciousness, his abilities. And he would also get another prize with all that, which would be probably the worst, most difficult life as a human being, along with the most amazing. So that's kind of an overview of it. There's other stuff, but
I like that
yeah,
creation energy.
I'm really curious about whenever they were talking about giving him like this ancient teaching. You know, since he was like a little kid, he must have learned so much stuff. And I'm really curious, like, did he ever like put out in any books what these teachings were? Because if it was
yeah.
from that age, I mean, he must have like the freaking knowledge, the knowledge that I want.
I'm salty.
His knowledge is I can't do it justice by saying enormous, and he doesn't need flattery or anything.
Yeah.
He has written over 60 books.
Oh wow.
Wow.
Very
That's a
little
lot.
stuff about 60 books. Very little about extraterrestrial, no stuff about extraterrestrials and other beings. Doesn't dwell on the UFO part because since the age of 5, he's been on board these things. He has been on board them when he was the only being to be on board as a child, when it was programmed to take him certain places. I mean, when you read these books and the beauty, what I was thinking about the other day, when you come upon something, you go, this is magnificent. This is amazing as a body of work. And it's amazing. And yet it's not hard to understand quite a bit of it. Sure, there's things that are new to us in there, but it's presented in plain, clear language that isn't condescending. It's not baby talk, but it's not highfalutin terms.
Yeah.
They don't deal with that. They say when people try to use a fancy scientific language to separate themselves from people, it's not necessary. Most things can be explained without that. So yes, 60 plus books. There is and most of the books are about the elements of this teaching that covers any and everything you could conceivably want to know about life, relationships, history, other life forms, what happens when we die, after we die, what is so-called reincarnation, what are ghosts, what's the paranormal, all this stuff. He's written books about it, and we have them on the website. We want people to come and look, see if any of these topics interest you. We have a little store. We sell Billy's books. We sell films, documentaries we've made. Beyond that, we have well over 2,000, almost 2,500 articles. His writing and teaching, all the stuff that's free, because people need the opportunity to determine for themselves, not tall tales and anecdotes. Yes.
That's wild. Yeah. A little bit earlier, we're going to the website and checking out all the stuff. And man, I definitely want to get one of those books. They're in English, right? Because I know there were some that were like in, I guess, the whatever language he speaks.
He speaks German, and here's the thing.
German.
Oh, German. Okay.
Every book that we have up there is in English with the original German. Separate, half of the book is in the German. Yeah, and that's for the German speakers too, because his books obviously go to German-speaking languages, so they can know that the translation is accurate, because there's a lot of attempts to change his translations, and with AI, it's going to be a horror story for Earth. Frankly, AI is the most dangerous thing we could have done to ourselves.
I did want to jump back real quick to whenever you're talking about the 6 previous incarnates that were here. Did he ever mention, or they ever mention who they were?
Sure.
Maybe, yeah. Go ahead.
Okay. The name of the first one in German is Enoch, which is Enoch. So I'll list them.
Oh, wow. Nice.
So
okay.
What was it?
Enoch.
Oh,
Enoch.
What was the other word? Enoch. Yeah. But
His name in German was Enoch.
Oh, so Enoch in German. Yeah. Okay.
So Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Emmanuel, Muhammad, and the last one is Billy. Now, you probably know the name Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Who the
Yeah.
heck is Emmanuel? Well, let me tell you who Emmanuel is said to be, because this is why one of the main reasons why Billy has been targeted for assassination at least 28 times, where they tried to kill him.
Wow.
I'll explain who Emmanuel is by saying this. Isaiah 7:14, Matthew 1:23. Basically, they both have the same sentence. I'm paraphrasing. And his name shall be called Emmanuel. That, to drop the shoe here, and this is a huge part of this material, there never was a man, and this is not to offend anybody. This is
Yeah.
just telling you what they said. And people,
Yes.
check it out.
Sure.
There never was a man named Jesus Christ or Yeshua. There was a man named Emmanuel whose name was changed years later, primarily. Now, when I started to read this stuff and other stuff pertaining to religion, that's,
Yeah.
you've got Christianity, you've got Judaism, you've got Islam, Buddhism, all of these are dealt with. So sticking with the Christianity part, when I started to read this, I'm going, well, how can that be? So a friend said to me, have you ever tried to find a biography of Jesus Christ? I said, no. Why? He says, go try. I said, well, it shouldn't be that hard. So I typed in search engine. This is going back a few years. Biography, Jesus Christ. And all that I was getting were the various religious texts, obviously, folks, right?
Yeah.
I said, but no religious texts, only biographies. None came up. Now, how is it possible, I asked myself, that the most revered, famous human being that ever walked the face of the earth, whose life is resonating 2,000 plus years later, that there's no biography about him? Okay, here's what we find out in this case. So this is like you have a sweater and there's a loose thread and you start pulling the thread before you know it, the
This
whole
goes
sweater's
deeper and
over.
deeper. Yeah.
So again, folks, there's nothing to believe here. I did an interview. I don't know if I sent you the link. It was with a guy named Apollo. It's almost 5 hours long. He's a very
Oh, wow.
yeah. I can send it. It's not hard to find. Apollo, the original podcast, I think it's called, on YouTube. We went almost 5 straight hours, and he's admittedly, it was interesting. He's admittedly hardcore Christian. As it's written, that's his he follows that. And I said, okay, it's really interesting that we're sitting here talking about this. We come from different places. And I said, but we have something in common with this. And he said, what's that? And I said, it's the things that this man stood for, by whatever name, that we both go, yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Back in about 63, Billy Meier is in the Middle East, and he is connected with a former Greek Orthodox priest who calls himself Isa Rashid. His name may have been something different. That's why I say he calls himself. To make this long story a bit shorter, they are led telepathically. Meier is led by the Pleiad. They don't see him. Meier is receiving it telepathically. And he and Isa Rashid are on the outskirts of Old Jerusalem, and they come to like a hillside or a burn, it's sometimes called. And there's a small opening at the bottom. Okay, they're checking this out. Billy will come back later and dig his way in. Flashlight and all this. He has known for a very long time that this is a task that he is going to follow through with. And he finds, when he walks in, it's clearly an old tomb, and the stones on the floor, there's just stones on the floor, starts to unearth, because he knows he's to look for something. And he finds resin encrusted, animal skin wrapped sheets, scrolls in Aramaic.
What?
Yeah, and Billy doesn't read Aramaic. He gets back in touch with Issa Rashid, turns it over because Rashid reads and writes Aramaic, also speaks German. He may have been originally an Iraqi or I'm not sure, probably spoke Farsi or some other language. And he's tasked with translating and sending to Billy. So it is turned over, and Billy gets, some years later, takes time, he does get a letter from him accompanied by a body of translation here. And Issa Rashid is saying there are very powerful forces connected to a couple religions in Jerusalem that found out I had something of interest. I'm taking my family, we're leaving here. Here is about a third or quarter of the scrolls I've managed to translate, taking the rest with me. And so he goes and he says in the final thing, I'll try to be in touch with you later. Here's what I've done. Meier receives this. Issa Rashid ends up with his family in Baghdad, in Iraq. And Billy learns later that somewhere around 74, I think it is, Issa Rashid and his family have been machine gunned to death, ostensibly,
What?
by the Mossad. So what had happened is that the refugee village that was the first stop for him and his family in Lebanon is where he took the remaining scrolls and hid them in a wall in a place that he was being allowed to live. But within the first week or so of being there, the Israelis came in and bombed that refugee village.
What?
Yep.
That's crazy.
So
Well-
what do these scrolls say?
That's the trick. Well, okay. They get translated into German and published as Talmud Teaching of Emmanuel. Then they're put out in English. I think it's about 1989 or 90. They attract the attention of an American professor at Oregon State University, OSU, who is, I think he's involved with meteorology and comparative religions. He taught a couple things. I met him, I knew him. We lectured at the same places sometimes. James Deerdorf, and when he finds out that this thing has come into the, let's say public arena in English, he says, oh boy, another Bible hoax, let me at it. So he goes at it. Bible hoax. A year and a half or two later, he publishes his own book, Celestial Teachings. You can still get some used copies on Amazon. And in it, he has a website that's still online. They haven't yet, tried to demolish any record of that, but there's a website. Have the link, of course, for it. And he comes to this determination: the Talmud Emmanuel resolves over 350 inconsistencies in the book of Matthew, 150 or so of which were not even being discussed or known at the time this book came out, in English or in German. So he says, what I'm saying is the Talmud Emmanuel is the original writing, the original teaching upon which the book of Matthew is based, not the other way around. And if you read it, now I'm not a Bible scholar, so I can't, cite chapter and verse. Some things I know, some I don't, most. What he does in the book is he compares sentence by sentence. He shows you, because there's a lot of similarities, and then there's stuff that are not similar, and there's things that you go, oh, well, that, for let's say I'm not a religious person, so I'd say, well, that makes some sense. I can't buy this thing in religious books or in the Hebrew books, this or that, but that makes sense about this thing that's in the New Testament that didn't make sense to me. How this happened. Okay, so Billy publishes that. And of course, more controversy. it's one of the foundational books, if you will. He's not the author of it. Billy was an editor, and according to the information in this case, because that translation, when it was put out, the Playaran people said, well, there's errors in there. Our language scientists can help correct, so you can see where the errors are. Certain words are not right, and that's probably because Issa Rashid had his own beliefs and he was influencing things here. So they put it out, and we have the book on our site. They don't make, with the exception of one fantastic book, they don't do anything digitally with the books. And there is a book, it is the teaching of all the prophets, German and English, and it's available to read for free online. Okay, people can, I'm rereading it and I'm going, oh my God.
What's the name of that book?
That is called The Goblet of the Truth. And I have a link on, I'll see if I have that while we're talking. I'm not sure. I want to try and make sure I get you the right link here.
I just feels like it goes back to what we always, well, like what I always say and believe, that everything is always controlled by a narrative that they want us to know.
Yes.
So they like, where is the real authentic one? There isn't going to be, because the way that they translate it is going to be the controlling of everything. Because
Yes.
for whatever reason they want to just have control over all that, and so they change things, they narrate it their way, so that they push that agenda on us, so that we can believe in that, when they're hiding like the real truth from us,
Yes.
Same thing with like what I say about the Bible, but the way, that's a whole different conversation. But
and you had mentioned the Talmud in one of the interviews I was listening to you. I forgot who it was with, and I remember getting my phone. I was at work, and real quick I downloaded the audio book of it. So I still want to listen to it. So what was it specifically about that book that just like jumped out that, okay, man, this is different, just has people, asking more questions?
Do you mean about the Talmud?
Yeah, about the Talmud.
Oh boy. Well, fancy this. There were 17 female disciples. Never mentioned in the Bible. 17 female disciples. And I'm going slowly here, so when I drop the final shoe, it won't be too bad. So here, let's get back to this consciousness changing about to happen. So what else is there about the goblet? Well, Mary Magdalene was not romantically connected with, I'll use his name, it's given here, Emmanuel. Mary Magdalene and Mary, his mother, were companions in the group of the who were helping to learn the teaching, so they could be spread through the disciples, which wasn't terribly effective ultimately, because things got very changed around by those who want control over everybody. Okay, so here's the thing that'll really bother some folks. There's so-called missing years of Jesus, where they don't know where he was.
A bunch of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was in India. He had been helped by Gabriel. We know him from connection, but he was one of the Playaran who was at that time doing what the Playaran today are doing. And Gabriel took him where he knew there were, if you will, masters living in the Himalayas who still had original teaching, who were highly developed. They kept away from the majority of people. So Emmanuel was being taught many things there, including how to control his bodily functions, consciousness, control over things, so that he could, if necessary, appear to not be alive. He knew that this walk, that he would only wish that the cup could be passed, so to speak, he would walk a very brutal walk for daring to call out the scribes and Pharisees the Israelites of the time, who even at that time were brutal, murderous, vengeful, thieving people. They make, in this material, they laid it out. I originally, I'll digress here and I'll come back. When I first saw the Meier material and I start to read about the stuff about Israel and the Hebrews and how this came about and that, I said, oh my gosh, are these Nazis from outer space? Oh, goodness gracious. It got me to open the book, the Old Testament. And I'm reading, on this day, God commanded the Israelites to slay 30,000. On this day, the Israelites slayed 20. God slew this. I'm going, where's the God of love and mercy here? This ain't loving and it ain't merciful. What's this about the God telling the Israelites, slay every man, woman, child, and infant in their mother's arms? Exactly what they're trying to do today and have been doing to genocide of people. Mm-hmm. And this will come to a stop. It's still going to be a while, but anyway, so Emmanuel was learning how to control functions because he knew he was going to have a brutal experience, to put it mildly. And at a certain point at the crucifixion, he appeared to be dead. And his father said, please let us take and bury him. And they got him down and brought him into the tomb that 2,000 years later, Billy Meier would visit and collect the writings and some other things that were in there. I have a little video about it too. We can make that available to people. It's a free video. And so he was ministered to by the three wise men who were come from India. They knew as well this was coming. And so they ministered to him for 3 days and 3 nights, or the whole deal that's represented in the New Testament. And he was, because of his own abilities, which were significant, he was an extremely advanced human being. He was able to appear to people, appear to be in the flesh, because he was. He appeared to Paul on the road, and all these things are explained in the Talmud. They're not quite mystical, where he, again, people, I'm not trying to upset anybody's beliefs, and I'm sure they go, oh, this guy's full of hot air, whatever. So, people just don't float up into the air usually, but well, this is an exception. Okay, this explained it better, and it made more sense based on what we these days.
What's going on, everyone? It's Tony Mars with the Melted Broadcast. If you or anyone you know would like to come on the show and talk about your experience, maybe you've experienced paranormal, maybe you've been studying ancient history or the forbidden knowledge all your life, maybe you're a spiritual teacher. If you would like to come on the show, you can reach me at themeltedbroadcast@gmail.com or hit us up on the website at www.themeltedbroadcast.com. Peace.
Can put 2 and 2 together and can see things in Billy's meetings and his conversations with these people. All of these things start to help bridge the gap of time. Enoch, Elijah, Isaiah, Jeremiah, Emmanuel, Muhammad. Now, wait a minute. What's this? This crazy terrorist? No, this is what we don't know. And this is what most people, including most Muslims, don't know. They know some of it. Muhammad came on a mission, hundreds of years, whatever. His mission was to stem the growth of the Catholic Church, which would otherwise have succeeded in virtually enslaving the world. Now, in one of the presentation I did with my friend there, Dimas, Apollo, the original podcast, in the final posting, he didn't get as far. I gave him a PowerPoint he could put up. And there, I have this in a blog, I think, too. There's a guy named David Castile who gave this thing about all of the steps that happened when, after Constantine the Great created Christianity, apparently. And there are all these things And I'm going, well, wait a minute. How do you? And then they created the cult of the Virgin and the belief in the this and that. Okay, well, that's how religion started, I guess. Hundreds of years after the events take place, people make up stuff. So Muhammad had the same task as Emmanuel, and slightly different because he was a firebrand. He had to rally the forces to try to stem those things. But according to the material, and Billy's published some of the actual writings in that never made it into the, if you will, into the. Now I'm flubbing it with the Quran, the Quran, and in there, what comes out is a different picture. Muhammad never married 9-year-old girls. He was a champion for women as well. He tried to protect and teach that. His original, see, again, the people that wrote down, like I think he had a cousin named Omar, who wrote stuff down, and there was scribes, and they put in whatever they wanted to when they didn't understand certain things or for other reasons, according to the Meier material. And so he's turned into a different kind of a person. There was never a call for to be misinterpreted that you're supposed to go and kill people who are not of your faith.
Yeah.
The people who are doing the terrible works now are not necessarily at all Muslim. They're Islamists. These are the people who they get them at fairly young, oftentimes vulnerable, and pump the head full of this kill the infidel thing. Look, unfortunately, the Old Testament, the superiority number, the chosen people thing, it's no good either. This is all these things that the people come who are truth tellers. They're prophets. They're trying to help primitive human beings get a handle on how life works. But for hundreds and thousands of years, things get twisted around. Yeah. So now, as I remember reading this when I first got the Meier material, those 86, I'm reading the early things from 50s and 70s, and they're talking about in the coming times, you're going to have Islam and Judaism and Christianity warring with each other and terror. They spelled out what we're in now. Billy was foretelling, with the help of having seen it now, Persia will be attacked, and China, Russia. I mean, all this stuff, it's in there. And they didn't speak kindly about Mr. Trump in 1946. They foretold him, and they did not speak of him kindly. They used the term, a Hitler-like dictator will arise in America. People like him, they don't like him, whatever. But yeah, we are facing now, what's coming next, just to drop the shoe, is going to be the biochipping of every man, woman, and child on the planet.
We just talked about that.
We're just
last
talking
night.
about that. Is that going to be where they're saying that you got to get the mark of the beast or something?
In effect, yes. And Billy wrote about that in 1958, talking about how this biometric chipping would be done first in America, then in the EU. And all of the things that are being set up now, and all the data center this and the download that and the 6K, all of this is to control and dominate people, because the mentality of our current leader is based, because this is a man full of fear and inadequacy in himself, it is about controlling and killing his enemies. I mean, this is what the country has become. He's not the first. He's probably one of the last, one of the worst anyhow. But this is what's coming. Billy foretold it. He's just given it. Billy was talking about the horrific in 1958. The same year he's talking about the attacks and the tariffs and all. You got to understand, these people, he wasn't making it up. He was shown. And he has a radio interview he did in 82. We recently put up because of what he was saying about the coming unavoidable Third World War, what countries will be involved. And there's a guy out, Professor Zhang, Chinese guy, got a lot of viewers online now, and he's predicting things and all. Well, he's predicting things that Billy published 44 years ago about all this. So he's doing it in a different way, a way in which actually makes certain sense, because Professor Zhang sees, he's a student of history, and he sees causality, cause and effect, you know, but he's not seeing all the details that Billy's seeing clearly. And he really doesn't have any answers. He's just simply telling you how he sees things coming. Some are very accurate, some may not be, but it's not like what Billy's been doing for decades.
I know one of the predictions that I heard that did happen was them telling him that he was going to lose his arm, and he did.
Oh yeah, yeah, that was predicted, and you know, we've talked about it. He's talked about it with other people. Regards, he said it was about 10 years before it would occur that he was told, you're going to lose your left arm. We are not allowed to interfere with that. But, you know, if you want, we can make you a fake arm, you know, an artificial arm. And he said, no, please don't. They said, why? He said, look, you have to understand the people of this world. There's two things. Number one, I would only be one of many people who've lost one or more limbs. Why would I have to get the special treatment? People suffer. And if you did that, I guarantee you, he said, there'd be one military group or another that'd get to me right away. I'd be kidnapped and they'd be taking me apart, literally, to figure out how this thing worked. He says, right. I don't need that trouble. If this is coming, if this is a path I have to walk, then I walk it. That's it. And he said 10 years later, he was on a beach in India, and he saw a man with his family who only had one arm, was missing most or all of one of the arms. And he said, that reminded me that my time was coming for that. And then I pushed it back out of my mind. He has an amazing ability to, I mean, imagine somebody says, oh, you're going to step out of here and you're going to hit by a car, whatever it is. You know, what? No, it must be a mistake. You try and change it. Billy didn't try and change anything. And that was a brutal thing that he experienced. Brutal. So he just takes what comes with being him. The good, the bad, the ugly.
That's crazy. I don't know if somebody told me like 10 years from now you're gonna lose your arm. I don't know, without being able to, to have the ability to push it in the back of my mind, how I'd be able to move forward when knowing like, man, is today gonna be the day?
I'm different. I'm more of it's already been written. I'm good with how it's gonna turn out.
Well, some things are written and some aren't, but in this case, it was written, if you will. And this is, like you talk about how to deal with things. Billy has an absolutely brilliant book. I could just say that about any of them, but there's a book. It's incredible. It's called The Might of the Thoughts. The Might of the Thoughts. It's in our bookstore.
Okay, so it is in the bookstore. Might of Thoughts.
Might of the Thoughts. Yes, you'll see it in the bookstore where his books are, hard copies. And it was may have been the first book of his I read. It blew my mind each time I dipped into it, because that book, you go, let me open anywhere. It doesn't matter where I open. So it is about the fundamental parts of this teaching. There are certain principles, and they are, discussed in all of Billy's books. They talk about the real laws of the creation of what we call the universe. And what we're taught is fairly simple sounding things. Number one, each human being is completely responsible for 100% of everything in their own lives. I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of things, but people want to say, well, what about this? We have to learn to see things as they are, not how we want them to be. There's a place for that, or how we don't want them to be, what we like, what we don't like. We have to see reality. So we have to learn neutrality, and specifically in terms of thinking, what's called neutral positive thinking, meaning, in this simple way of looking at it, it's probably a bit more, we see things, we take them as they are, and then we decide if there's something that we are moved to do with or about what we now see as real. And if there is, we start thinking about how that could be. We get feelings about that one way or another. And then we think there's another thinking that takes place, whether or not we will act. And if we will act, will we act to change a given thing? Will we act to say, I'm leaving it alone here, I see this, or how I would do this? This is something each human being does actually a lot without being consciously aware of it. So when we said 100% self-responsible, people can say, well, I'm not responsible if a car drives down the street and hits this and then boom, it hits me. And you say, you're correct. You didn't cause that. But now you are 100% responsible for how you will what? Deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
Your thoughts,
Yeah.
feelings. So it comes down to it. And what they're saying is our job, so to speak, when we read this book and we think, it's to learn to recognize that we are thinking all the time, what we are thinking, how we feel about what we're thinking, and this process, so that we are not completely impulsive, either impulsively hyper happy, impulsively fearful, impulsively angry. These are hard things. I have my own issue. This triggers my stuff. I have to go, got to remember how to. Okay, let's go back to the beginning, because we can, people talk about, well, I'm going to meet extraterrestrial. No, we can't handle that. The beings, certainly that Billy meets with, and he's met with others, they know this because you can't be guided by the same lower kind of consciousness we all in the earth partake of. If we are going to try to venture out, Mars, Pluto, that's not outer space. This is the solar system. We couldn't get out there. We'd be stopped rather brutally, because we are what goes on this planet is known, and we're avoided. Yeah, there are beings that have come here, that come here occasionally, that are based even under the surface of the earth. They're not meeting with people, and I had this experience, and they should have. There are a lot of things that happen. There are explanations and all. So rather than, when people come and say to me, well, I've had this thing, my experiences are like Billy, I said, well, then don't blow my mind out yet. Give me the evidence so I can do with the evidence what I do with Billy's. I want to vet it. I want to think through it. I know how to analyze sufficiently for certain things. Some things is above my pay grade, but I can tell whether evidence is authentic or not pretty well. Nowadays, it'll be harder because, and this is why they stopped with the UFO photos and everything in the films and the video. 1981, he says, well, when is our next? They said, no more. I said, why? Well, the computer age is coming. There's going to be a lot of fancy stuff. People are already going to accuse you of hoaxing all this, even though you couldn't do it. You one-armed man, no technologies, no money, you're living in the boonies, all this stuff. But they'll attack you viciously, doesn't matter. And then there comes the technologies that will, with the computers and all, they'll be able to simulate it close enough. They'll say, this is how you did it, or we can do it. So let's move on. You know where the real juice is here. The juice is next level, the higher standard of proof, the prophecies. These are, they're so easy. It's so easy to prove. Prove it to scientific and legal standards. And I have some conversations with people who are pretty advanced, NASA scientists who are willing, the ones that are willing, and high-level intelligent person who interrogated me over a period of about, 5 months or something. Yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
I talk about it in our most recent film. I've got it in there, all sorts of stuff that is in the film that happened after the film was out. I mean, it's just that simple. And yet people want phenomena. Phenomena, really, I understand the fascination, but folks, we're way past the need for phenomena. We are in a place of what are we going to do to survive what's coming, what's already in our faces. This is nobody coming to save us. Nobody. No prayers will be answered. None of this, that. Let's get into reality. You know, Billy is the most real, genuine, unassuming, straight ahead, warm person. I've seen him yell at people too. I mean, he's not a saint. This is just a real human being.
Right.
And he's the most knowledgeable human being I am aware of who's ever lived, frankly.
So I do want to talk about the pictures of the crafts that that he's taking and all that.
Sure.
I know the one right there in the background. I guess us looking at you would be to the left. That looks pretty similar to the sports model that was shown by Bob Lazar in the S4 film.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, I forgot about that. Bob Lazar. There's a psyop for you, folks. There's
Oh, no way.
oh yeah,
please,
wait.
Please tell us.
Okay, so you know I was interviewed by Chris Ramsey on Area 52.
Yeah, we watched it last night.
Okay, you know, there's things that Chris is just terribly off about, and I want to give him his due. He contacted me to bring me and my wife out. He was gracious, he was generous, and all that. The day after we arrived, because I said, give me a day between, because I don't travel that well. I don't want to be jet lagged. So the next day, he brought us to a studio, and who would come in? That probably was Luigi Venditelli, who's his producer.
Okay.
Also a nice guy. Luigi's a nice guy. But boy, oh boy, are these guys out to lunch. So we spoke for over 6 hours. I asked him in the middle, I said, hey, Chris, why don't you videotape this? So, no, don't worry. Tomorrow we'll cover it all. We didn't cover it really in that interview. I was waiting for some of the stuff that I thought he wanted to know about. I got stuff in. A lot of his audience doesn't have the mental ability, the thinking ability to handle. Now, I'll be fair. He started the ball rolling, and I put in 2 hours and 15 minutes of time. I covered a lot of stuff. And some of it was quick, some of it wasn't. But his people are used to just sensationalism. So Bob Lazar. Luigi told me the movie's coming out, you know, when we were there, it was out, he's traveling around. So I happened to say, we might as well watch it. And they have a poster with the back of Luigi or whoever they're looking up in the sky. So, Bob Lazar in the back of it. And there is one of Billy Meier's photos. Not
No
Bob.
way.
I've got it on my blog. I've ripped them a
my
new one.
God.
Wow.
They went and
Didn't
took
expect that.
one of Meier's photos and they treated it a little bit with some AI or CGI or whatever. And they can't deny it. And there it is. Because Bob Lazar doesn't have one piece of tangible evidence for his tall tales. Now, let me be clear. Did Bob Lazar work for Area 51? I guess. I don't know. Did he have all these experiences? Anecdotal. Some people vouch for this. Others say it isn't. So that's fine. I don't care. Does he have evidence to prove this sport model? No, he's got Billy Meier's photograph, and he has something else. In 1989, he and George Knapp began putting out interviews where they talk about Billy Meier. And it's the first time that Bob Lazar says, oh, yeah, Billy Meier, his photographs really remind me of the so-called sport model. Oh, and Billy Meier read his this, that. They're talking about Billy Meier 37 years ago or whatever. So they knew. And George Knapp, by
That's
the way.
wild.
Oh, it gets great here. George Knapp and Wendell George Knapp, because of the generosity of a couple brothers from Las Vegas, Danny and David Bax. We were invited to, a big private club in Las Vegas something or other club. George Knapp came to interview us. We have 5 episodes of George Knapp asking me and Wendell Stevens, who was really the big expert, questions about Billy Meier. And suddenly, George Knapp is all about Bob Lazar, who has 0 evidence. Billy Meier originally took over 1,200 of these photos. More than 8 films have survived. We still have those. 617 photos are in the photo book that we publish. We've got the original remaining 617 of his photos. And Bob Lazar, they talk about, listen to this. So crazy. I don't know if you, I mean, really, when you get this and you get people trying to defend Bob Lazar is interested in having a little jet car to drive around in. Billy Meier, at the age of 5, is on these craft. Folks, I will take on Luigi. I will take on Chris if you want, because Chris really blew it with it. Chris has never looked at the analyses of the photos. There's experts. In 1989, Bob Lazar is talking about Billy Meier's photos. 6 months later, remember, I've already had this stuff since 79, 10 years before Lazar. I'm giving a lecture at a major hotel in Los Angeles called the Biltmore Hotel. They brought in not only me to lecture, I asked them, could you bring in these 2 people? Britt Elders, who was one of the original investigators, David Froning, an astrophysicist working with high-level top-secret defense for McDonnell Douglas. They brought him in. So I couldn't wait to get David Froning to the microphone, and I introduced him. And so he'll take a couple questions. Hey, what do you think of this? You know, there are 450 corporate clients, high rollers for this hotel, big people. And they're wanting to ask, well, what do you think of this Billy Meier case? And he did something very interesting. He basically reiterated what he gave in an interview in a book that's called Light Years. It's no longer around, but it's published. That part of all these interviews is on the website. We've got all these experts authenticating Billy, and these people are babbling about Bob Lazar. Oh, no, not another one. So what happens here is David Froning is asked, and he says basically what he said in this interview with the author of Light Years, Gary Kinders. He said, a group of scientists and I have been studying this material, and we have been amazed that this man, Billy Meier, has published information about above light speed travel that is within 20% of what we have come to, with complex calculations using all these formulas and all. And they said, how would this man know this? We don't know that he's not got the absolute. How would he have stuff that we're just as scientists coming to work out, and he just rolls it out there? No, we take his material very seriously, and so should other people. So this is the quality of the people who know what real evidence is, what it takes to analyze, to think through, to debunk, or to authenticate. I've got to say this in all deference, and I say it in deference because what have people got to go on? I started to do interviews. Do you know who Art Bell was? He was.
Oh yeah, I was, yeah. Like I said, I was on your website earlier, and I saw that. I'm like, that's freaking Art Bell.
He did.
You know, and I mean, he's like the Godfather.
He was the Godfather. I did a couple of interviews. One of them was 4 hours long.
Man, I'm so jealous.
Said, I think at the end of it, he says, that's the best interview I've ever done on the Billy Meier case, but I didn't do it. Thank you, Michael, for doing it. You know, I love this material. I'm glad to talk about it.
That's freaking awesome.
It was pretty nifty. And up until recent, I did George Nuri, and I'll have to tell the truth about that. I had done 22 interviews on Coast to Coast Norris
Wow.
was the last. And here's what happened in 2020. Somewhere in February 2020, you may know that COVID was hitting, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
I had just done an interview with George, and then I got Billy Meier's first publication of information from the Play Aaron on COVID. And I called, yeah, so I'm going to be kind here. I called up and I got his then producer, a nice woman who'd been very helpful. And I said to her, I'm not going to use her name. She's no longer there. I said, can I get 5 minutes on the show tonight, tomorrow, something? She said, what for? I said, well, Billy just got information from the Play Aaron on what this COVID is, what it's about, what's going to happen with it. 5 minutes is all I need just so people will know. Well, he's not a doctor. You're not. She started to argue with me. I said, of course, we're not doctors. You know, George knows that Billy's prophecies and predictions. I'd already been in Colorado for his TV thing. I forget what it's called, but when we did that television show, I don't know, 2014, whatever it was, he's got Billy's photographs up there. His eyes are as big as saucers. He's talking about the prophecies. I said, look, you know, George knows. She says, no, there's no way. You can't do it. And she wouldn't budge. Okay. That was February, maybe 23rd, 2020. And at that time, when I went to look, living in Arizona, there were 5 cases in the whole state. I looked further. There were 57 cases across the country. 57 cases. And I started to reach out. I've got all the records on this, to every media person, medical person, educator, politician, you name it. They wouldn't do it. There's a press release. This is in my film. I don't tell all the story, but nobody would do it. And the Play Aaron were saying at the time, and this is I'm going to be doing a new blog about this because there's some controversial stuff. There's more stuff coming. First of all, the creator of this disease is not Fauci, and it is not Bill Gates. However, as far back as 1946 and 7, when Billy was talking about the crown disease, crown disease, he's letting people know that this will be 46, 47, deadly, but there will be vaccines created that are going to kill more people. They will be toxic. Women will have spontaneous abortions. They won't be able to conceive, all sorts of things. Heart disease. He was publishing this 80 years ago. Now, we can come back to a couple things about this because it's going to upset people. What was about the first thing that's on that, I have the blog, they were telling people, let me see if I can I read off the blog?
Oh yeah, sure.
Okay,
I
let me
mean, yeah, because I want to hear all this.
So this information comes to Billy from the Play Aaron, and we get it a couple days later. Harsh truth from Play Aaron about SARS-CoV-2 pandemic, published by us February 25th. And I have somewhere the original date. And I'm going to just go through these points, and then I'm going to tell you what I am going to defend for sure. And here they are. According to Play Aaron, as of this date, this is already a pandemic and must be treated as such. Avoid airplanes, ships, mass transportation, crowds. Stay at home to avoid exposing yourself to risk of infection. Real number of infection and deaths much higher than reported. This is back February 2022, 23rd, 25th. Actual incubation period, up to 4 weeks to 3 months. Spread by asymptomatic people through air, breath, clothing, etc. Breathing masks at this time, useless. Virus penetrates because too small. There was a correction later, an addition more than a correction. Full body protective suit, breathing apparatus only, real protection. Hermetic quarantine required, must be longer than 2 weeks. Asian races initially most susceptible, but will spread to others. Virus becomes more aggressive over time, claiming more lives. Children, mainly immune, main hidden spreaders of disease. China, US, etc., suppressed truth and economic reasons. Last one here. The WHO culpable for not immediately proclaiming pandemic risk. Now, I think it's fair to say that avoiding airplanes, staying home, all this stuff, full body protective suits, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wanted to hear that. Now, I put online, and I think I can bring it right up here. Let's see. Okay. Here, I'm about to bring this up, and I'll tell you what you can look up. It's called New Online COVID-19 Test. And folks, you're hearing this, you'll be able to find it. And if maybe some links, it's all here, it's all addressable. Let me tell you what it is. I started to publish it September 11th, 2020. And what we have here is, or are, to the best of my knowledge, 43 specific facts, verifiably published first by Billy Meier from the Play Iron Information, before the WHO, the CDC, anybody else. And it covers things like if I keep reading off of this, I'll bore people. It's called, but I want to tell you just a couple more facts without reading from this page much more. Again, this is called New Online COVID-19 Test on my blog. Let's hope that the powers that be will allow you folks to read this. So here's the thing. Billy Meier, we also have a press release put out because we show this whole article. I might be able to show it. No, I can't show it. Okay. He, in November 1919, publishes information about the origin of COVID, not from fish markets and all, from lab accident in Wuhan. This ties into the earlier version of this disease, the SARS that escaped from Guangdong in 2004, which he predicted in 1995. Aaron gave him all this information. So here's a little bit of what's in play. He also published back in the 40s, this disease will be started when a powerful ruler of China, that was a man named Mao Zedong, powerful ruler, communist, will be contacted by an also very powerful American who had been a politician who had been disgraced and humiliated in America, hated the American government and people for what happened to him. Now, I don't know if you folks are old enough to know this name. There was a man named Richard Milhous Nixon.
Yes.
He was president, Nixon. He was the president who did what? Opened up the communications to the world with China. He had gone to China. He had befriended Mao. And what is explained in this material, when he was humiliated, when the whole thing came out about the big scandal, it was a real big scandal. Daniel Ellsberg, I think, was the one who released the Pentagon Papers and all this stuff. He was impeached. He was thrown out of office. It was a big scandal, and he was a very vindictive person, and other people. Nixon, when he was kicked out in the mid-70s, he went to China. He brought some virulent material that he got from a lab, and he proceeded to turn it over so that Mao could weaponize it there. Not to attack China, but to attack us. But what happened was, just like the first SARS, there was a spill in Wuhan. And who got hurt by this first? Not us, the Chinese people. It was not developed officially by the government after Mao was out. This was secret development in labs, probably some CIA tie-in there. But this is so different than the people who've gotten some things right. They've gotten some things wrong. So here's my bottom line. The mask is what's called, what do we call it? It's a barrier. That's all it is. It's not a weapon against people who want to live. It's a barrier. Look at a society like Japan, and I did some research. You'll be surprised at the percentage of protection that the Japanese people have had when these epidemics and things are gone. They are kind of homogenous. They operate as a community, a culture. They are pretty much mainly Japanese people. Chinese are mainly Chinese. We don't get it. We're at each other's throats. We're individualists. We're going to not be told we got to stay home. And the other thing, the Playaran had worked out, and they told us to, Billy, and that's why they said, if people will do this for just long enough, this thing will not spread. The pandemic will not take hold. It's already happening over there. A lot of people won't be affected, but we knew better. And there's people that gotten a lot right about the virus and the whole thing with the vaccines and Billy said there's more. Before this happened in 2017, he foretold virulent, rapidly spreading diseases. Rapidly spreading means pandemic or epidemic. And there will be yet another attempt to exterminate whole peoples by an elite who are going to, this is coming, these attacks. If we can get our senses and be logical, go, wait a minute, why wouldn't we want to stock up and stay home for 4 weeks? Let this thing dissipate. If it can't take hold, if nobody's out there catching it and spreading it, so people will disagree with that. That's fine. But there's things about all this. The CIA and the White House came out endorsing the Wuhan thing finally. Billy published it in 2019. So this is when we get into prophecies and predictions and higher standard of proof, and what I say to people, folks, it's time to forget ufology. You're never going to get anything you can do. See all this wonderful stuff? Billy's got the best evidence, and please get the photo book if you really want to see real stuff. Photos taken from within the craft, all this stuff. Get the photo book. Look at the free.
So there's a photo book for purchase?
Yeah, let me see. I think it. Let me see if it's.
I'm gonna get one.
He's gonna get one.
Here's the first. This book is still available, either as a download. This is the first, as I said, through space and time. Now, interestingly enough, here comes the thick one, which we'll have a party trying to show this. This is a beauty of a book. You can't tell from my handling of it. but we have a few of them left. They're expensive. The other one's a lot less money because, well, they're expensive to make. They put them together in Switzerland, and they're kind of perfectionists over there. So that big photo book, 617 photos. But the other one's great too, because we have it even as the other one we have also as a digital download. And we don't have digital downloads on any of the other things except the, the Goblet of the Truth is a free digital download.
Yeah.
But the deal here is that these are people who know certain things. And as they said to Bill, Billy will ask him question after question. And they will say to him, okay, we know that. They'll tell you. And then they'll say, we don't know that. We haven't found the answer to that. They're very honest. It's not like we're the Space Brothers and we know everything nonsense. It's good enough that they can get here from 500 light years away and do all this stuff. I'll study and find out, because when you read the teaching in Billy's books, like the might of the thoughts, it's just like, oh my gosh, that's just so, I got to read that again, because even when I start over, I don't remember reading that. Did I read that the first time? It's just so, it's written so smoothly and it engrosses you, and then it's the thinking process. So what we did, believe it or not, now we'll see if you can see this. I don't have views. See that sort of?
Yeah.
There you go.
That is a flash drive. What's this flash drive doing? We put out this new film, right? Where I've got all this stuff, time travel, tons of stuff. So I thought, okay, eventually, we can make it downloadable and all that, but I'd like to protect it from AI. I'm just I know what's coming with AI, so I want to. And I got a company that gave us this flash drive, which has the A and B or whatever, B and C or.
Oh, okay.
Right. So this has the whole new film plus a bunch of other video stuff from Billy, interviews and all that. There's a ton of great stuff. Then we have the second one. It kind of looks like the first, except it's in a wrapper.
There we go.
This is what's called the companion drive. So we've got these two drives for the price of one. Sometimes we do it actually. We have a 2-for-1 special somewhere online. Oh, well, okay. So what's on this one? Because there's so much deliberate attack and trying to corrupt Billy's material, and we put over 100 articles from him on this, plus a film on the companion drive, plus a film where he's predicting certain things that are going to happen. And it's fascinating. So that is something I wanted to get it out in a unique way. And it's the kind of thing I carry it on a keychain sometimes or whatever. And there's some peace meditations, so all the stuff. There's some stuff done in German so you could learn it. It's pretty comprehensive. So people who want that, as I say, we've made those things available, download, but I love them on the drive, because then you don't have to worry about a download. You can plug it in your phone. You can go offline, so no AI is going to get in while you're doing that.
Yeah.
There's limitations to things, but that's what, we try to get the information out is what it amounts to.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I've never seen anybody really just try to distribute information like that, like at least here recently.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. That's definitely something I'm gonna get for sure. I want to get that book. At first, when you were like, it's 600 pages or something pages, I thought you're gonna be like, it's $600. I'm like, damn.
No, it's pricey because they're so rare. Nobody else is carrying it, really.
Yeah.
You have to go get it from Switzerland or something. But it's 617 pages, and it's fantastic, really. You can't go wrong with Billy's books of any sort.
Yeah.
And that's, but again, you start reading that stuff, and then you start looking through the prophecies and predictions, and you get these people are trying. See, nobody ever asks, what's this about? What's the reason? So I'm going to tell you, because I was about to say it. Nobody ever says, and all of you ufology, what's the reason for these contacts? It isn't for us to chase lights in the sky. It isn't even about great UFO photos, believe it or not. It's about our future survival.
Mhm.
It's about helping us to assure it. And if the people in ufology, because this is what I say to people, it's coming sooner or later. I mean, Bob Lazar, that's a great psyop, and I would tell him to his face. They won't debate me on that stuff.
Oh shit.
But they have no evidence. They only have Billy Meier's photo up there. And they even, there's a thing called the wedding cake craft in the Billy Meier material. It's really
Yeah.
wild. So now in their film, they have the bundt cake craft. They created some CG thing that looks like a bundt cake. I mean, why don't they just say, listen, thanks to Billy Meier, we've got something to peddle for a while. It's not the real,
Right.
we're not the real thing, but enjoy yourself. So it's not going to be a field, ufology, for much longer that anybody should really trust, because everything you're getting
Mhm.
is vetted by the government. And I even have a thing on Twitter where Tim Burchett, one of the guys, gave me a thumbs up. I had a subcommittee. I left them a phone message. This is going back several years, saying, I've got these photos, time travel, this and this. Oh, please send them to us. We can't wait to, give them to the committee and send them up the chain. Okay, I gave them to the committee. Goodbye. Never, they censored them. It's just that simple. So
Yeah, that's what they do.
ufology, the field itself is bogus. It's not ufology that we need. We need the rational scientific approach to this, and we take it, and other people do. But the sensationalism is what's going to eventually result into, why didn't somebody tell us? Look what's happening. Why didn't somebody warn us? Billy's been warning for 84 years. Nobody paid attention. So that's why I am grateful for the opportunity. I'm not trying to insult people that are interested in UFOs. I started off, didn't we all? But if there's a reason, folks, you may want to get onto that. I just, really would love to get all these people that are so fascinated by the misleading stuff. And frankly, I'm sorry, poor Chris Ramsey is a nice guy, but he's got one goofy thing after another. And have people taken photographs of UFO? Yes. Are they meeting with extraterrestrials? No evidence. No evidence. So maybe we would someday do some kind of who knows, do a series of presentations or whatever for groups of people that really want to.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done it. MUFON is another enemy of the Meier case, and they're really angry because a MUFON director in Sedona, Arizona, I think it's back in December, she had me come and make a presentation to MUFON people. Oh, their hierarchy was just steamed because Billy was told in 1953 that there will be this organization called MUFON, and it'll be as big as the enemy, because they feed all their stuff to the CIA because it's research for all the terrestrial objects that people are running around thinking it's all extraterrestrial. It goes on and on, guys. So
we actually got asked to go do a presentation for MUFON as well, like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Did you do it?
Yeah, we did.
Good. There's nothing wrong with if somebody's willing to host you, because so many people, we ended up 20-something thousand views, so it's not bad.
Oh wow.
Yeah,
That's
they
pretty good.
they approached us though. They had approached you.
Yeah.
About it.
And we had some stuff going on. We got some good footage of it, and some things that were happening around here, and they were interested in it. So we went and presented our findings and all that.
Good.
But it was.
Where are you located?
We're in Houston, Texas.
Oh, I did a show down in Austin back in December. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Next time you come down to Texas, you're gonna have to let us know. I'm always telling her that it sucks that they don't ever do like a lot of conferences here in Texas. They're always like in California and Nevada and all that. And
Yep.
I would love to to get in touch with more people in this community, people like yourself
Yeah.
and others. So yeah,
Yep.
man, if you're ever down here in Texas, man, let us know.
Well, what I generally do is if I get invited, they bring me somewhere, I go, because quite frankly, it's it's an expense to fly around, get hotels and all that. But it's nice when they're doing it and they're having a conference, they put people up and have them so they can come and do it.
Yeah, yeah,
And flying, is such a hassle these days. But I'd go anywhere. I mean, we went to Canada because Chris brought us there. Then we'd gone to Austin before that, and we go into LA, all this stuff. So it's just that I liked doing the international stuff too. But we'll see what happens. But
yeah,
I just want people to know about this, and I'm very grateful that you're giving an airing to this. And if people have questions or challenges,
yeah.
they send them to us, or they send them to you, and they send them to me.
Yeah, for sure. And we really appreciate you coming on the show. We'll go ahead and close this out.
Well, before that,
But
but some of the stuff
yeah,
too that online that for the viewers out there and the listeners, some of this stuff is free though. So I mean, go check it out for sure.
yeah. But also, don't forget to
Keep
pull out those wallets and get some of those books too.
Yeah, also support the cause if you are
Yeah. And
into
these
that.
are, we make the downloads. This is not the downloadable version, but even this is inexpensive. And the download of the film and the download of all the teaching material, it doesn't cost anything practically. It's, 2 digits and they're low. So,
Yeah,
so it's $10 and stuff like that. Anyway, we do that to help. We've got to help, pay our bills and all
yeah,
that.
for
But
sure.
publish everything else on
Exactly.
the site. So
Well,
you know the drill.
yeah, we're
So-
definitely going to purchase something, to help out as well.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something that we do with every
We do
every
with
guest
every
that we have,
guest.
whether they're authors. We just had Jim James Goodall on, and we bought a pretty awesome collection of his books with the
Yes.
75-year anniversary or 75 years of Skunk Works and all that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we're gonna do the same thing, with you. Get a couple books and add them to the collection for
Yeah.
sure.
Good. Enjoy them.
Oh, we will.
Yeah, they were pretty pricey, but there's a lot of pictures too in there too.
Yeah.
So a
Yeah.
lot of good information. So we do love to support also.
Yeah.
Though.
So, but before we do let you go, if you could tell everybody, again, your website, your platforms where they could reach you, and all
Sure.
that, so we could get that traffic. I mean, I'm sure you already get a lot of traffic, but we'll get you more traffic.
Sure. It's what do you call it? Theyflyblog.com. Theyflyblog.com. And then there's email addresses and stuff. I won't even try and get people to try and remember that. But we can be reached through our blog. And please, whatever works, get in touch.
All right, sounds good, man. Thank you so much, Michael, for coming
Thank
on,
you.
and we'll reach out again and definitely get a hold of those books, and maybe come back to do a part 2, or maybe you want to come do a presentation. I think that would be awesome.
That'd be
We
good.
could do a live event or something.
Oh, that'd be
If we can
good.
get that going, we'll show up. I'll just tell you that.
That'd be good. The live event would be good.
All right, sounds good. All right, thank you so much, Michael, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you, folks.
Bye.
People say that I'm one of the greats, I'm the one that you love to hate. Shake 'em up like a quake, pop your feelings and turn and dispose them like haters I throw away. I'm forever blessed, got the spirit that's holy controlling me, I ain't gotta coordinate. I just sit back and buckle my bills and I'm ready to blaze in the stars of my destination. Melted broadcast, open vision. Melted broadcast, open vision. Melted broadcast, open vision.
Melted broadcast, open vision.